welcome back to Bandwagon fans. This is Jeff, and before I get started, I just want to thank all my returning subscribers and to invite anybody new to the channel to go ahead and hit that subscribe button. And if you like the video, go ahead and hit the thumbs up as well. It's a fairly new channel. I've only been doing this for a couple months, and it still really means a lot to me every time I see that new subscriber alert come up. So looking forward to doing more reviews for you, more discussions, and just hope all of you will get to stick around and watch this channel grow over the next few months and hopefully years. So with all that being said, tonight I'm going to be talking about the Charlize Theron movie Tully. Now in this movie, Charlize Theron plays a professional woman with 2 kids, husband, and she's about 3 days shy of giving birth to a 3rd child. So most of the movie centers around after the birth of the child, and her and her husband decide to hire a night nanny, or a woman that will come in and take care of the baby at night so that Charlize's character can actually get some sleep. So, and then the movie deals with what happens when somebody who's used to being a caregiver actually has somebody there to take care of her. So with that being said, enjoy a couple highlights from the trailer, and we'll be back to talk about Charlize Theron's Tully.
Hello. I'm Tully. I'm here to take care of you.
I'm just not used to people doing things for me.
Your 20s are great, but then your 30s come around the corner like a garbage truck at 5 a.m.
Girl skill.
No, we don't.
You can't fix the parts without treating the whole.
Yeah, no one's treated my hole in a really long time.
All right, so this is Emmett, and Emmett is pretty camera shy, although he is a big lover. And I've had this guy for about 6 years now. And for the first 4 or 5 years, me and Emmett were boys. It was just us. We had our little routines going. We had everything figured out. Although, man, he is normally like the most lovable cat in the world. However, I don't know, there's something about the lights. I don't think he likes the lights. So, but we had our little routines going on, and we had everything figured out. And then one day, Ernie joined our house. And Ernie is not affectionate. Ernie's actually a little brat. But when Ernie was a kitten, he was an absolute nightmare. And every night, 4 or 5 times a night, he would maybe trying to assert his territory, but he was constantly antagonizing Emmett. Emmett normally sleeps on my bed, usually at the foot of the bed. Ernie would jump up and start biting the back of his neck, swatting at him, just trying to assert his territory. And he's still hanging out around here somewhere. Which would cause me for about 6 months to get absolutely no sleep, which so drastically changed my mood on a daily basis, my stress level, just from not getting any sleep. So, why am I talking about my cats in a review about Tully? So, from the trailers, this looks like it's a movie about being pregnant and caring for a baby, which for somebody like me who has never had kids was kind of tough to want to see this movie, because I didn't feel like I was the audience for it, and I didn't feel like it was going to be very relatable to me. So, however, if you only view this as a movie about pregnancy or child rearing, then it's going to be for a very select audience, and I think that's why so far its launch has been kind of small. It's not getting a lot of viewership, whereas it's actually a much better movie than it's well, all right, I'm getting kind of sidetracked here. So it doesn't appear to be appealing to a mass audience, and I think that's because it was marketed as the movie about pregnancy. And if you just view it as a movie about pregnancy, you're probably unless you're a woman who's been through that, if you're a man who has kids, you might be able to relate to it. But it's actually about much more than that. So as I brought out the cast to talk about this, that was kind of my entry point to try to relate to this movie, and it worked. At least, well, for me it worked. It might not work for you, but because I was able to relate to just the stress of not getting enough sleep and what that does to a person. So one of the interesting, so going back to how the movie is laid out, you have Charlize Theron, who is 9 and like 9.5 months pregnant. She is as pregnant can be, about to give birth any day now. They've got 2 kids already. One of the kids looks like he might be somewhere on the autism spectrum, although they don't really clearly say what's wrong with him. But he is a handful, much in the same way that Ernie has been. Just like Ernie always likes to come and tear up the couch while I'm doing these reviews or go after the porg, her young son is constantly kicking the back of her seat when she's driving, demanding they park in a particular place. They keep calling him quirky, just a very demanding, stressful child to be around. Her husband, played by Ron Livingston, is kind of he's a good father, he's a provider, but they definitely show early on that he is aloof and not really aware of how much stress that Charlie's character is under. She does have a job where she works at HRO for some company, so the movie kind of mentions that had just started her maternity leave, and that's actually kind of a key point now that I think about it. It mentions that she's at her son's school to deal with one of his misbehaviors, and she mentions that she just went on maternity leave like a couple days prior, and she's clearly about ready to give birth at any moment now. So it kind of shows that she had to work literally up until the last moment, which kind of sets up what the theme of this movie is. And it's not about pregnancy. It's not about child rearing. What it's really about is the pressure to perform in modern society, and how that pressure to perform, the physical and mental drain it can take on humans and on bodies. And then when you add a pregnancy onto that, just can push somebody past the breaking point. So the movie, after she has the baby, there's a montage of changing diapers, waking up, holding the baby, feeding the baby, using the breast milk, or pumping the breast milk out, and then just repeating, goes through it like 3 or 4 or 5 times, just showing just how grinding that life is on Charlize. There's a moment in the trailer where her daughter looks at her and says, "What's wrong with your body?" Because she's just dripped in sweat, and she takes her shirt off at the dinner table, and her entire existence is literally destroying her. So her brother is married to this waif-thin, petite Asian woman who's given birth to 3 kids, but they still have this like idyllic life of wealth and luxury, so they're able to afford certain things. And her brother ends up hiring Charlize a night nanny. Some of you probably have no clue what that is. I certainly didn't, but apparently a night nanny is somebody that shows up at your house at night just to care for the kid so that the mother can get some sleep, and then the night nanny disappears in the morning. I don't know if this is a real thing or not. I haven't looked it up yet, but that's the premise of the movie. So Tully is the night nanny that gets hired, and it just becomes, and now Charlize is just able to sleep and able to rest, and her mood changes. She becomes happier. This young woman, Tully, comes in and cleans the house for him, bakes things for him, does all the things at night that a modern mother with a career is supposed to be able to do, but really physically can't do it, because it's just insane to expect that much from a person. But Tully comes in at night and does all these things, and for a while that's kind of what the movie is now a caregiver, somebody who's used to being stressed out and being exhausted, now has the opportunity to have somebody care for her. Overall, this was, so going back to the cats and how does a single male who's never had kids relate to a movie like this? Again, anybody can relate to being so stressed out and being dragged down by your job, or feeling like modern life is just grinding us away. And if you approach this movie from that point of view, I don't think there's anybody out there who can't relate to this or can't get something out of it. I'm gonna go into some spoiler discussion here in a minute, so I'm gonna kind of wrap up the non-spoiler part and just say that this was such an amazing film, so much to learn from it, so expertly made, and Charlize Theron is just such a treasure. Not just her acting ability, but her ability to transform her body for a role is it's unparalleled. I'm blanking. Christian Bale from Batman has done some similar things where he lost an immense amount of weight or bulked up for particular roles. But Charlize Theron, whether it was the way she transformed her body for Mother, is similar to the way she transformed her body for Tully. And then she can be the drop dead gorgeous blonde, ultra bombshell like in Atomic Blonde, or countless other movies. Just she is an absolute treasure, one of the best actresses of all time, and she is absolutely flawless in Tully. Ron Livingston was also excellent. I forgot to write down the name of the actress that actually played Tully. I will look that up before I get into the spoiler section. The kids did really good. The direction was good. Just the screenplay is phenomenal. This movie should get some award recognition at the end of the year. I highly recommend everybody go see it. Don't let the trailers scare you away. Just an excellent movie. I'm gonna give this 4.5 out of 5 stars. Just an absolute joy. Well, all right, maybe not an absolute joy, because there was some emotional gut punching in the movie, but just a phenomenal piece of work. So go see it, and then after you see it, come back, because we're gonna do I'm gonna do some discussion about some of the deeper themes, and for that I have to get into spoilers. So again, if you haven't seen it yet, go ahead and stop now, come back and watch it later. And for those of you that have seen it, stick around, because we're going to get into a bigger discussion about some of the stuff that happened at the end. So for now, I'm Jeff. Get on the bandwagon, and if you're sticking around. All right, so for those of you that have stuck around and want to watch me talk about some of the themes of the movie, thank you. And hopefully you've actually seen the movie, because I am going to spoil some of there is a twist at the end of the movie, and I am going to talk about that and spoil it. So this is Charlize Theron starring in Tully. This movie could have been called I Need Some Goddamn Sleep Already. And for that reason, there's an entry point for anybody to watch this, whether you've had kids, whether you've gone through pregnancy. Anybody can watch this. And as I was thinking about this movie, I was thinking you could make almost this exact same movie, but instead of starring a pregnant woman or a woman who just had a child, this movie could be about a professional wrestler. And this wrestler is on the road 6 out of 7 nights a week, has to take steroids to bulk up, has to take amphetamines to keep up with his schedule, and after years, just what toll that would take on his body and his mental health. You can make that movie and it would be almost identical thematically to Tully. Because again, this is not a movie about pregnancy. It's a movie where pregnancy happens and it impacts Charlize Theron's character, but that's not what this is about. This movie is about the pressures of modern society on the human body and the effect it's happening on our physical health and our mental health. Let me catch my moment here. So, one of the big twist in this is that Tully doesn't actually exist. Much like Fight Club. Sorry if I just spoiled Fight Club for somebody, but just like Fight Club, this character is actually an alter ego of Charlize Theron's character. And there's a point at the end of the movie where you find out that her maiden name is Tully. And there's an image that keeps recurring through the movie where Charlize Theron is sleeping, and she dreams about this big ocean, and there's a mermaid swimming through the ocean. And then at one point, it's not a mermaid, it's a woman drowning. And that really hits on what this movie is about. And the first couple times I was like, why are they showing a mermaid? Like obviously it's symbolic for something, but it took me a while to figure out what it was. And it really refers to, for some bizarre reason, mermaids have come to represent an idealized form of femininity. It's not my idealized form. I prefer my women to have legs, but from somewhere along the line, mermaids became the representation of what women are supposed to be. So in using this imagery of the mermaid, it's showing the pressure on Charlize Theron's character to perform and to be the ideal modern woman. And the ideal modern woman has everything together. No, we're good. All right. Another movie that talks about this theme is Bad Moms. So if you've seen that, where Mila Kunis is just like, I can't be the perfect mom anymore. That's what Tully is really about. It's, the perfect mom has a career, takes care of the kids, makes their lunches, makes cupcakes, attends all the PTA meetings, and by the way, is able to have sex with her husband whenever he wants it, looks fabulous all the time, is able to entertain dinner guests, and it's just this litany of things that just are not practical or reasonable for most people. And shouldn't be expected on anybody. So the idea of this mermaid, this idealized woman cutting to a woman drowning, represents the physical and emotional state of Charlize Theron in this movie. So we find out that Tully, this night nanny who has come in and doing all of these amazing things for Charlize Theron, isn't really Tully, or isn't an actual person. It's Tully, or keep jacking up the names. It's actually Charlize Theron who's going around and not sleeping at night. She's out, she's staying up all night to clean the house, to bake for her kids. At one point, going up at midnight or so to dress sexily for her husband and fulfill some sexual fantasy he has, and the family, everybody around her is oblivious. Everybody's thinking, "Wow, it's just amazing. She's got everything together. She's doing great," and just completely oblivious to the fact that she is having a psychotic or a nervous breakdown. And while she's doing all these amazing things, she is imagining somebody else doing it, because there's no flipping way she'd be able to actually do it. Until the night where, in the movie, it's Tully convinces her to go out. I think they end up in Brooklyn, so to go out for a night and drink. And she, begrudgingly, she does go out and do this. ends up having a car accident because she falls asleep and rolls off a bridge. And all right, so she goes out. She's up drinking out all night, partying, having a great time. Tully is kind of this free spirit who is encouraging her to do this kind of stuff. As they're driving back home, she falls asleep, drives off a bridge, and now the car is sinking in a river, and the mermaid comes and rescues her, unlatches the seatbelt so that she can get out, and then it cuts to now she's in the hospital. Her husband, Ron Livingston, is just incredibly remorseful, realizing that he's been oblivious to how much stress she's been under. There's a point where Tully visits Charlize in the hospital room, and that's where it's revealed that she doesn't exist. She's actually a manifestation of Charlize Theron's younger self, and now she's going to essentially disappear. So very similar to the twist of Fight Club. And in both movies, they've done extremely well. Did not see this coming at all. So some people will claim they did, but I did not. And that might be, I'm kind of jumping ahead of myself, but that might be the one thing that was kind of frustrating, or one thing I didn't like about the movie. So there was kind of this implication once it's revealed that Tully is a manifestation of her inner self, or an hallucination, a dissociative act, a dissociative conjuration. It's kind of implying that this was all the stress from the early part of the movie and her mannerisms in the early part of the movie. It was all a reflection of a mental health issue, and it's initially, my initial reading before I took some time to think about it, my initial reading was that it was kind of a cop-out, and it was kind of letting modern society off the hook, rather than blaming society for the stress it's putting on her. It's kind of saying, it felt like the movie was saying she couldn't live up to the stress because of her mental health, her mental state. After giving it some time of thinking about it, I realized that that's not quite what they're trying to say. And what they're actually saying is, and I'm going back to my medical anthropology class, what they're actually saying is that it's a psychosomatic, that the physical stress is actually causing her mental breakdown. So again, it's going back to the theme of modern society putting so much pressure on people that it physically affects us, and mentally, and causes mental illness as well. And once I realized that it wasn't really criticized, it wasn't really using the mental health issue as a cop-out, but it was actually saying all of this stuff was being caused by the pressures put on her. That kind of, for me at least, made this an almost perfect movie. There's almost nothing in this movie I would have changed or had a problem with. One of the I'm going to kind of backtracking here a little bit. One of the interesting aspects of this was the comparison between Charlize Theron and the physical breakdown of her. For example, her daughter saying, "What's wrong with your body, Mom?" And then compare that to her brother's wife, the Asian woman who had gone through 3 pregnancies and was still like the perfect modern woman. Now, you could go back and read that as that's from Charlize's point of view, where she's kind of putting herself down versus pushing other people up, and maybe her sister-in-law actually had more issues than she was aware of. Or it could be, and what I think was actually going on, it was rejecting this notion we have, in 2018 or so, of another expectation of pregnant women and a maternity. And that is the expectation, this exaltation that we put on pregnant women, that they're goddesses, and that pregnancy is this beautiful, amazing thing, and we should put women up on a pedestal, and pregnant women should be going out and doing maternity shoots. As a photographer, I'm aware of maternity shoots. I don't personally do them because it's not something I'm interested in, but I know it's a really popular, trendy thing right now. After watching this movie, I'm kind of wondering if it's not actually, if the impetus to do maternity shoots isn't actually detrimental to women who have to go who are going through pregnancy and having kids, because it kind of, at some point it crosses a line from, you can easily cross a line from honoring women and valuing their contribution. The various, men obviously can't have babies, so there's something to honoring a woman for being pregnant, but that can easily cross the line into putting an expectation on a woman to be pregnant in a particular way. And the whole idea of doing these maternity shoots where women are treated as goddesses and are beautiful even though they're pregnant, or beautiful because of their pregnancy, however you choose to phrase it, there might be a lot of women out there who are saying, no, I don't want to have to be beautiful right now. I just want some damn sleep. I want to be gross. I'm gonna sweat. I'm making noises and smells and sounds that I'm not used to making, and just kind of deal with it, and don't force me to have to be your goddess. I think that's what one of the messages in Tully. But again, I am a single male who's never had kids. I have 2 cats. One of them stressed me out to the point where I almost gave him away because I just needed some damn sleep. We got through it, we're fine now, but it was pretty stressful for a while. And through that, I can definitely relate to what Charlize is going through. So I've kind of been meandering a little bit, kind of rambling for a little while. Overall, I really do like this movie. I do appreciate it. I hope more people go out to see it, and I hope it generates more discussion. This is one of those movies to see with a couple people, to have a discussion about what it means and what could be learned from it, because it really has some pretty powerful statements about modern society. So, anyways. Yeah, I think I am going to wrap it up here. I've been talking quite a bit. So if you enjoyed the discussion, go ahead and hit that like button. Please subscribe. There's a whole summer full of movies coming out, and I'll be doing this as long as people keep watching. I'm gonna keep doing this. So it's really fun for me to be able to share my thoughts on these films. Hopefully you got something out of my discussion, and if there's things that you disagreed with, leave a comment below. What did you think the themes were? What do you think about my interpretation of the idea of rejecting the need to be a beautiful goddess woman while you're pregnant? What did you think of the twist at the end? And what do you think this movie says about your life? So let's have a discussion. Go ahead and leave those comments below, and I'm looking forward to seeing them. As always, I'm Jeff. Get on the bandwagon.